welcome to the New Canaan Museum and Historical Society's Women Leaders of New Canaan, celebrating the legacy of the 19th Amendment. I'm your host, Meredith Bach, and over the next several months, I will be interviewing an extraordinary group of women who have given tirelessly to improving our town and to shaping the New Canaan we enjoy today. This series could not have taken place in New Canaan 20 years ago. There has been a dramatic shift in the power structure in our town. Women are now in charge of major sections of town government. They run businesses and major institutions. They have founded social justice organizations, raised hundreds of millions of dollars for medical research, and lead organizations that help seniors and empower young girls. They are lawyers and architects, corporate executives, artists, and protest organizers. They are dedicated to giving back and to making life better. They are New Canaan's change makers who stand on the shoulders of giants and who inspire, lead, and give hope at this critical time in our nation's history. But these women would not have been able to take on the vital roles in our community had it not been for the 19th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The amendment, which was ratified on August 18, 1920, paved the way for broader women's rights and opened educational and professional opportunities for women. It allowed women to own property and manage their business and financial affairs and led to greater reproductive rights. However, like much of American history, the 19th Amendment was fraught with racism and was the product of negotiation and compromise. The women I will be interviewing are the beneficiaries of a struggle for full emancipation that began over 150 years ago and continues today as women face down barriers to full participation and recognition in every sector of society. Follow us and enjoy feature-length articles on each woman, which will appear in the New Canaan Museum and Historical Society's newsletter. The video program is available at nctv79.org and will also be archived at the museum's website. Enjoy the program.
I'm Mickey Porta, President of the League of Women Voters of New Canaan, and we are so pleased to be supporting the series Women Leaders of New Canaan. The women of the League fought long and hard to get the vote, and we're still here today working to get out the vote through voter registration, nonpartisan voter guides, debates, and programs, and supporting our youth through internships, awards, and the Harvard Case Method Civics program at New Canaan High School. Happy anniversary, and remember, always vote.
Welcome, Bethany. We have Bethany Zaro here today, who's the Director of Human Services for the town of New Canaan. Welcome. You are part of a impressive and powerful group of women here in New Canaan, which I like to call the next station to heaven, driving business and community, doing a lot of great things. Tell me a little bit about your background.
All right. It started in upstate New York, Rochester, and from about 8 years old on, grew up in a woman's household with my mother and my sister, and then we moved out to California, so had another aspect of growing up in another environment.
Tell me a little bit about college life. Where did you go to school?
Went to school, University of Florida, and I was there, transferred, finally ended up there for my final degree in economics, and then after that, I was in the municipal bond institutional sales business. Got married and had 2 children when I was in my 30s and started going to nursing school. I enjoyed science so much, but never really took any classes in it. So I went back to nursing school, became a registered nurse, and went on and had a 3rd daughter. And from there, I decided that it was time to progress in my career, came to New Canaan in 1994.
Is that where you raised your daughters?
Yes, now I've raised all 3 daughters. They were in kindergarten and 2nd grade when we moved here.
And where did you move from?
Los Angeles.
Big transition then.
Huge transition. Once again, though, moving back east, I felt like I was coming home.
That's right.
We have relatives in Westport and Darien, so moving to New Canaan just made it seem very comfortable.
Did you look at other places before New Canaan? How did you land on New Canaan?
My story is we were looking in Fairfield County, and we finished looking houses for the day. We had houses we were putting bids on in Westport, Darien, New Canaan, Greenwich. We went to see a movie, and before the movie started at New Canaan Playhouse, the usher came and said, "Would anybody like more salt and butter on the popcorn before we start the movie?" And I said, "We're moving to New Canaan."
Is that right?
So that's what got me to New Canaan, is
great
this
story.
wonderful community.
And your kids went through the New Canaan school system?
Coming from LA, you went to a private school.
Sure.
So we started out with that mentality, and then we slowly realized where we were, and we did a combination based on each daughter's needs.
And while you were raising your kids, when did you have your aha moment about going back to school and getting these different
So
degrees?
when I was 30 and done having children, I thought, I realized their lives were ahead of them. They had a full future. And I thought, I felt stagnant, thinking, okay, I never really was in a career. I was just working in investments for a year and a half, 2 years before I got married.
Yeah, so you worked in the big city kind of
In LA,
environment,
right, yes.
and then really made a big change.
Big change, stopped working, did the typical stopped working, planned a wedding, got married, had kids.
You were the executive household coordinator, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
That was my professional job.
Yep.
24/7,
Sure.
which is wonderful. I loved it, but there was something missing. So that's when I decided there was something. I had to start thinking about what I wanted to do, because I still wanted to give myself that freedom.
Well, tell me the story. When I was learning a little bit more about you before we started, you were 30 years old and you had a health emergency. What happened?
Health emergency, misdiagnosed myself, so I had emergency gallbladder surgery, and I was in the hospital, and there were so many wonderful nurses that made me want to get better. I thought, I want to be a nurse. I can't go to medical school. I have a family, and so I have to balance this out. And that's when I started balancing my life. I went to a community college, Santa Monica Community College, and I talked to the nursing counselor, and she had she gave me the momentum and the inspiration. She had done what I was doing at 30 years old. She had gone back to school. She had 5 children, and she became a nurse. And she said, take an anatomy class, take a physiology class.
If you can stomach that, you can do it, right?
See how you like science. And I said I was never allowed to take a science course. It was only business. And that's why I got a degree in economics. It was a family thought and a family mode. We were in that non-science, more business. So I took economics, never giving myself a chance, like, what do you want to do? And so I took the science courses because I loved them in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with anatomy and physiology, but then the Balance Act comes, and I can't go to medical school. So this becoming a nurse was that balance.
What happened after that anatomy class?
I was completely enlightened. In terms of a sense of self, that I could do it, plus my brain I was a sponge for science. And I kept thinking, gosh, why didn't I do this in college? Why didn't I take that? But I stopped myself based on the tapes that go in your own head.
Sure.
That you keep going on what you're supposed to be doing. And I wish I'd been taught, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Versus what's expected.
Right.
And so letting myself at 30 years old let myself think, what do I want to do? Then all of a sudden, my whole future was in front of me, just like my kids.
Tell me about the steps that you took to get to where you are today. Give me a little career path.
Okay, so I went to the Santa Monica City College, and it's associated with UCLA Medical School. So there were cadavers. I mean, we watched the med students doing their dissections. It was absolutely incredible. Then I was in nursing school there, and we moved to New Canaan.
How did you transition from the West Coast to the East Coast with
I was-
trying to get this
yeah.
degree?
I was not deterred. I
Right.
thought, okay, because we're moving back east. So I thought that's a positive too. I was so happy to be moving back home. So as soon as I got here, I went to Norwalk Community College and got in touch with the nursing school there. And I had to, nothing stopped me. My obstacles did not get in the way of my goal. So I had to do all the prerequisites for Norwalk Community College. I did them, went to nursing school, and completed the associate's degree, and then took the RN exam. Became registered in the state of Connecticut, and started doing, once again, it's balancing it out. So I started doing substitute school nursing. I only wanted to be in public health. I did not want to be in the hospital setting. My clinical setting was school nursing and public health. So I started for Darien, Wilton, New Canaan, and all the private schools. I was a substitute school nurse.
That's great.
And then I started working for the town as their public health nurse, and started getting into emergency response, mass dispensing, things like that. Fell in love with public health, loved it. So then move ahead, and times changed, and it was just my three daughters and myself. And I thought, I can move up in this career, and I'm going to have to move up in order to set myself up for my future, which as we get older, the future gets tighter and tighter. And that's when I thought I'm going to get my master's in public health. And I thought about nursing or public health, and the arena that I was in was more public health related.
As you were going through these steps and setting more goals for yourself, were there anybody along that way that was mentoring you?
I had my mother's support. I had my daughter's support. They called me the studier. And so we would all study together. And my youngest was 10 years younger than my other two.
Wow.
10 and 12 years younger. So definitely filling a lot of needs and balancing out. Their needs come first, but then I think, but I have my needs, and I do feel guilty about meeting my needs as a mother. That still the balancing act was the hardest thing to do.
I think that's for every woman. Any mom, they're
Yeah.
trying to balance everything and do the best that they can in all those roles, and it sounds like you've had a lot of success balancing things.
And I feel I have, in terms of where I'm at. I think as my daughters get older, they will see, one is expecting a baby in December, and she's taking on that role of a mother now. And I look back and I think, I hope I've been
It sounds like you're a
role.
mentor to them
Yeah,
as
and
well.
she is a research doctor.
Fantastic.
At UC San Francisco. She has a lab, and I see her she's going to have to balance.
Yeah.
And I hope I've been a role model. So her balancing, she can see it can be done. Sometimes there's give and take. But the girls have been my pillar,
Yeah.
as well as my mother.
Yeah. Tell me a story about a balancing act, maybe a situation that occurred while you were doing your job as well as managing your family and all of that. Is there any fun stories that you can tell me about how you came through a difficult time, maybe?
What I think about most is if one of the girls was sick, and I had my classes set up, so if they didn't go to school.
So you had your nurse's hat on and your mom's hat on at the same time.
Right, or if I agreed to be a substitute school nurse at a school that I put in, and then they couldn't go to school that day.
Oh, yeah.
And so my routine was compromised, and like, what do I do? What do I do? Priorities.
That's tricky.
It's tricky. And someone's going to be disappointed, mad, hurt. And that was the hardest challenge. I tried to scramble. Friends, other women came through. Other women, other moms. I fell back on those people too, saying, can I bring her over to your house? Can I do this? Can I do that?
Women seem to take on a lot of roles, obviously dealing with the balance. Do you see that Obviously, New Canaan has a great sense of community.
Unbelievable.
And the women really support each other, it sounds like. How do you feel in your career how women are leaders in your type of work?
In this area, the women leaders are incredible. That I see, I'm more in human services, social services. It is a female predominant area for public health, which is great because you are talking to people. Everybody has a situation, clients come in.
Is it because women have a nurturing sort of gene in them?
Yes, I think it is, and they understand. They've had children, they want to have children. There is that softer sense, and it's all individually based, but we tend to have the chemicals that give us a softer touch, but we also have the brains as well. So I think our combination of what we can bring to the table for a resident or for a board meeting or for advisory councils, things like that, I think we really do have a wonderful, once again, balance of what we can put in and our experiences and how we're feeling about them, but also this logic, evidence-based, that we also have too. And so I just think we're able to balance based on experience very well.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then the backing, the support from other women is great, and men too.
Sure.
They're there too. I can't tell you the compliments from male and female about what the town means to them and how human services is helping the town. So there's a sense too of warmth and trying to create a community where people care, but it still functions well.
Let's talk a little bit about New Canaan and your visibility over the town of New Canaan. What do you find to be the highlights? And maybe talk a little bit about what we've been dealing with over the past few months.
There are silver linings to everything. And the highlights that COVID-19, the pandemic has brought, it's brought even a stronger sense of community.
I would agree with that, absolutely.
It's validated our sense of community. And as one ages in place, which I tend to do, I want to stay here,
Sure.
and I plan to stay here, you can't go somewhere and duplicate this.
Right.
Unless you've been somewhere a long, long time and you can see the insides.
Sure.
And people have such a warm heart here. I think it's allowed. You can have a warm heart here. You can be vulnerable here in terms of reaching out and making yourself available for other people. And I see it with the seniors in town. When COVID hit, we had over 200 people call saying, we're more than happy to help out and do the grocery shopping for the seniors.
That's fantastic.
Then what I learned about New Canaan, seniors that are here, I mean, they're bright survivors. They want to be here. They want their independence.
Yes.
So for them to have to call up and say, can someone go grocery shopping for me? It was difficult.
Of course.
Totally understood it. The community understood it. The volunteers understood it. It wasn't a weakness. It was, let's keep this community healthy. So the volunteers and the residents, the seniors, we all needed each other to keep this community, to decrease the transmission. And we did it together. We're doing it together. It's incredible learning about people, who they are as a person, not as a political preference.
Right. And you see it during a really tough time.
Exactly. So political preference is out the window.
Sure.
It's human contact and for the goodness of the community.
Right.
And seeing the town council, the first selectman's office, seeing them zero in on the seniors. Zero in. We have to keep them safe. And the communication, the outreach, and the concern. So I have to say, COVID showed that this town, the people in it, the people voted and elected and assigned to positions in towns, in our town, they really do, they care.
Yeah.
And all political preference put aside.
So everybody worked together well.
Everybody worked together. And inside, once again, tropical storm that we just had, having the Emergency Operations Center with a new director, incredible. Everybody helped. I mean, public works, nonstop.
Yeah.
The little things, seeing the orange trucks going around and pulling out the trees and things like that, trying to work with Eversource and Optimum, all those agencies, they had their own issues. The town's commitment to the community.
It's such a team effort, really.
It was a team effort, yes. Was our electricity off
Yeah.
a long time?
Yeah.
Yes. Do we have an after-action report, learning from it? Absolutely. But the heart was there in terms of the pulse of people working for the town. And they don't even live in New Canaan.
Right.
But that whole community effort inside the workings as well as the community.
I'm going to come back to the New Canaan questions when we get closer to wrapping up, but I wanted to just touch upon, obviously, these interviews that we're conducting here at the New Canaan Historical Society and Museum is all part of a celebration of the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, giving the women the right to vote. Do you remember when you voted for the first time?
I remember 18 years old. I was in Palm Springs, California, and I had my driver's license for a couple of years, and I was able to go in and vote. And there was a sense of being proud as well. It was a duty.
Was it a local election or a national election that you first voted in?
It was national.
Ah.
It was national, and then I didn't do local. And then when I did the national, I realized I have to vote. This is a right, it's a privilege, it's a duty, and it's not just every 4 years.
Right.
This is when a vote comes up in your community.
That's right.
You have an obligation, a commitment, and a right to vote.
If you were living during the time of this ratification, do you think you would have been involved, supporting, out there, cheering on these women and getting this passed?
In my own way.
Sure.
In my own quieter way, but not to judge their way. The reason we are voting today is because
I know.
of those
It's amazing.
tenacious, strong,
Yeah.
visionary women.
And they were probably seen as such radical people back then.
Can you imagine?
And today, we're still talking about a few things that need fixing and get women up to more equal footings.
Yes, equal footings, their rights.
Yeah.
Once again, their rights.
Yeah.
And women have to do it. No one's going to do it for them.
Right.
Because they feel it, and the strength and the commitment for equality. Hopefully, every woman is finding her sense of self, and whether that's promoting the cause or going back to school. I mean, that is promoting the cause.
Sure.
It's finding your sense of self and your balance in life, and feeling that you do have a place in the community from any perspective that you want.
You talk about balance. You talked about it a little earlier in our discussion, balancing work, running a household, raising a family. Let's talk about you as what do you like to do when you get your choice? What do you do to relax? Tell me a little bit about sort of your off the work situation.
Off the work. So I love animals. There's a sense of
Do you have a lot of animals at home?
I'm down to 1 dog and 3 donkeys.
You have donkeys.
I rescue donkeys.
Okay.
And I've rescued them for over 20 some years.
That's amazing.
And they find me.
What does that mean exactly?
I let them find me.
Okay.
There's a donkey sanctuary up in Michigan that I have been connected to for years, and I've adopted a few donkeys from there.
That's
and I just go up to the field, into the field of seniors. I'm definitely senior partial, and I just go to the field, and whomever comes to me, that's
then
when
you know it.
I have them trailered home.
Then you know it.
Yeah, and so this is their forever home. So I want them to age in place in New Canaan too.
That's great. What is your favorite tradition in New Canaan?
I love the sidewalk sale. I was so happy to see it last week.
Yes, the So Long to Summer sale.
I know.
Yeah.
I sent Tucker Murphy
Yep.
a text saying the town looks so happy. You know, it was just a moment of.
It worked out very well this year.
It worked out very well.
Yeah.
The Christmas carols. I love that. and the Halloween party, the parade that they have in
sure,
town.
yeah.
I know the beginning of school, the end of school, graduation,
Yeah.
all these small town
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, New Canaan does it very well.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing about New Canaan?
You can drive into this little town, and from the outside, the view, it looks charming. And we have all the pretty lawns and the little storefronts
The
and
stone
things.
walls
And
and the
stone
churches.
walls, and you
yeah.
walk. All right, so that's your backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've lived here for over 20 years. That backdrop is still amazes me, but now the inside, the heartbeat of it,
Yeah.
and all the systems that go on, it's just as strong.
Yeah, you have a very cool perspective of this town as a resident and as somebody who works for the town.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you have a wonderful perspective. All right, we have just a few more quick questions. What would you tell your younger self? A piece of advice, something that you would wish you knew back when you were just getting started.
If someone can see, I have a future ahead of me, and it's going to take balance. To be one thing for someone's entire life, maybe that'll work, but explore. So I wish I had explored more. Maybe that's what I'm getting to. Exploring who I am, where my brain goes, how I'm wired. Why take a science class, for God's sake, instead of listening to the tapes of, well, it's business, we do business. I have to say, my sister and I are the first generation women to ever complete college.
Oh, that's great.
And my mother pushed that. No matter what you do, graduate. So I want to take it one step further with my girls. Find out what you want to graduate with. Take different courses and figure out. And sometimes we find out more about who we are not, versus who we are. Just keep exploring, exploring.
That's great.
So exploration.
Yeah.
Within.
Yeah.
And then I think the world opens up.
Yeah. One last question.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to aging in place. I want to be more mindful, because when you're young, that future is out there and you're striving towards something. For the first time, I feel as if I had a goal of being in human services, and then I could raise that bar and become director of human services. And so now there's almost a sense of, oh, now I have time to be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hope every woman, every person reaches a point where they start making the time to be in the moment. And that's not who we are, human. That's not how we're wired all the time. So finding that mindfulness and trying to be in the moment. And there you can see all the beautiful aspects there are.
Well, Bethany Zaro, Director of Human Services of the town of New Canaan, thank you so much for being here with us today. This was terrific.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.